Greetings. Today we continue in part 2 of Unlike Kind Faith. We read 2 Corinthians 11:13 through 15. We go back to the first verse of the chapter today and begin at 2 Corinthians 11:1. He said, "Would to God, or I wish before God, that you could bear with me a little in my folly, and indeed bear with me. For I am jealous over you with a godly jealousy. For I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ." Listen to verse 3. He says, "But I fear, lest by any means, as in the same manner the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Christ. For he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, whom we have not preached. Or if you receive another spirit which ye have not received, or another gospel which you not had accepted, you might well bear with him." In other words, he's saying, you're ready to embrace the false teachings instead of staying with the truth. In Galatians 1, beginning at verse 6, he had said to that church, "I marvel that you are so soon removed from him that called you into the grace of Christ unto another gospel, which is not another," and the pronoun here means another of the same kind, "but there be some that trouble you and would pervert the gospel of Christ." He says, "But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other kind of gospel unto you than that which we preached unto you, let him be accursed. As I said before, so say I now again. If any man preach any other gospel unto you than that which he has received, let him be accursed." This is based on number 16. A statement of fact has been given that there have always been false prophets. In number 16, Korah stood as a false prophet against Moses and Aaron. And we find as we read that account that God brought immediate judgment upon him and everything that belonged to him. Again, we find a prophet named Hananiah, which stood as a false prophet against Jeremiah. And God took his life in a span of 2 months. In Jeremiah 28:15, it says, "Then said the prophet Jeremiah unto Hananiah the prophet, Hear now, Hananiah, the Lord hath not sent thee, but thou makest this people to trust in a lie. Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, I, the Lord, will cast thee from off the face of the earth. This year thou shalt die, because thou hast taught rebellion against the Lord." So Hananiah the prophet died the same year in the 7th month. Now, if you look back to verse 1 of this chapter, it tells us that this prophecy and the dueling prophecies, if you please, took place in the 5th month when God had sent Jeremiah with a prophecy. So Hananiah then stood and openly contradicted what Jeremiah claimed that God had said. So Hananiah was claiming a different message from God. So Jeremiah was content to remind the people of the test of a prophet from the book of Deuteronomy chapter 18, verses 20 through 22, and allow them to wait and see which prophecy would be fulfilled, either the true prophecy of Jeremiah or the false prophecy of Hananiah. So let's read that test together, because it still applies to us today, as we're admonished by the Apostle John in the book of 1 John 4:1 to try the spirits whether they are of God. Deuteronomy 18:20 says, "But the prophet which shall presume to speak a word in my name, which I have not commanded him to speak, or that shall speak in the name of other gods, little g, false gods, even that prophet shall die. And if thou shalt say in thy heart, How shall we know the word which the Lord hath not spoken?" God answers, "When a prophet speaketh in the name of the Lord, if the thing follow not, nor come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord hath not spoken, but the prophet hath spoken it presumptuously, thou shalt not be afraid of him." So Jeremiah was sent back to give Hananiah a personal message in verse 13, that God himself would execute the death penalty upon him within that year, and 2 months later he died as a false prophet.